but it's still amazing that it was able to do that. Greetings, everyone. Today I've got, oh man, that's dusty. Let's try this again. Greetings, everyone. Today I've got a product review, tests, demonstration, special deal for you guys. It's a solar generator. At least that's the common industry term for them. Really, it's just a battery bank with an inverter built in and some extra like power accessories and multiple charging sources, including one of them which can be used for solar. I don't do a whole lot of camping, and I kind of want to be prepared in case of, you know, the feces hitting the rotary oscillator. But what I do need is power remotely kind of often with my YouTube channel. Can this replace this? We're gonna find out. If this video helped you decide, please use the link below, and there's also a $50 off coupon code that you can use on their website. I will earn a commission on your purchase, but it's no extra cost to you, but it helps me a lot. It helps me do these videos. I spent way too much time on this video. One of the key selling points on this is, this is how you charge it. This is a normal C13 plug. Trust me, I know, I have quite a few of them. So there's no external DC power brick that would be massive. And you just plug it in. Turn it on so you get the display working. Alright, charging on the AC cord, you can see it's pulling 650 watts. That's faster than you can discharge it. You can actually charge it faster than you can discharge it with the inverter that's built in. I'll hold this up to the microphone. I have a microphone right there. So that's the fan that runs whenever it's plugged in. Even if it's full, the fan's running. But they have an app that I can change quiet charging. So instead of 650 watts, it goes down to right around 100 watts. And the fan gets a lot quieter. Not completely off, but quieter. Which brings me to another thing. The app, it runs on Wi-Fi. So if you're connected to your home Wi-Fi, you have to disconnect from that and connect to this on the Wi-Fi settings on your phone. I kind of wish it was Bluetooth, but that's a minor gripe. Everything works just fine. I had no problems connecting or registering the app. It all just works, except you have to disconnect from your home Wi-Fi. Plugged into AC, this will charge up from 0 to 80% in an hour. It'll charge from 0 to 100% in 1.6 hours. So that is super fast compared to anything else that I've found. I think that's industry leading for any solar generator that I can find anywhere. Once you're connected to it on Wi-Fi, this is what the app looks like. You have temperature, that's adjustable between Fahrenheit and Celsius, capacity, remaining charging time, and if you have a load on it, it'll tell you time to empty. You can turn the light on and off. Of course, there are different modes, low, high, and save our souls. You can turn the AC on and off from here. You can turn the DC loads on and off. In AC, you have your voltage, which is fixed depending on the model that you get. 50 hertz, 60 hertz. No, I don't want to switch that. And X boost, whether you want X boost on or off, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Down to the battery, you can change it to a maximum charge capacity of like 68%. You can do this to increase your battery lifespan if you want to keep this for many, many years and cycle it daily. If you reduce this, then it prolongs the life of your solar generator. I'll just leave that at 100% from now. In the system, you also have system standby, LCD standby time, quiet charging. Turn that on and it'll go quieter a little bit. Sound effects. Of course, there's your temperature. DC mode, you can change the charging mode from auto, MPPT, adapter. I'm not sure exactly how adapter works, other than maybe it's just a fixed voltage like from another battery. And then you can go into your firmware version, and there's my firmware version. And if you have a load on it, this will tell you the power output that is going out of the AC or the DC. One last thing to show is there's a breakout port for expanding the capacity with other EcoFlow products. The first one is the River Pro Extra Battery. So you can increase the battery capacity from 720 watt hours to 1,440 watt hours. They also offer an extra power kit, but I can't see that it's available on their website for sale anywhere at the time of this video. This is saying the DC barrel jack ports, these ones here, are good for 3 amps. Let's test that. This is the 12 volt cable that came with it. Plug that in there. Plug that in there. 13.5 volts. That brings me to a major selling point of this. It's a 28.8 volt battery. So this is a regulated DC power supply. You will always have 13.5 volts until it's dead. Okay, let's bring this up to 3 amps. Of course it's holding that, no problem. Let's go further. 4 amps, 5 amps, 6 amps, 7 amps. That's a lot more than 3. 8 amps. Is it gonna stop? I'm gonna let it sit here for a little bit and maybe think about shutting off. This load tester turns on the fan at 40 and it's maintaining 8 amps. Let's go a little higher. And that's peaked out that dial. Let's turn up this dial. This tester only goes up to 10 amps. Okay, I've maxed out my tester and it's still powering that at 9.84 amps. And the voltage has only dropped to 11.9 volts. That's fantastic. Okay, I've let that run for 5 minutes. It has no sign of stopping. And we'll try the cigarette lighter socket. This wire is pretty warm, guys. Maybe recommend not doing that. Even though it can do it, say don't do that. All right, here's the DC power port. It's not getting any voltage. Just plug. There we go. Same 13.5 volts. Let's just crank it up to let's crank it up to max. It'll probably be fine. Of course, that is sustaining 10 amps or as close to 10 amps as we can get with this device. Just fine. I imagine that these 5.5 millimeter by 2.1 millimeter ports are on the same wiring circuit as the cigarette lighter port. All right, let's test USB power output. This is in the quick charge port, so it may not actually communicate to do higher voltages. Quick charge 3.0 requires communication to go up to 9 volts or even higher voltages. I know we're getting close to the cutoff right there. 2.5, 2.6, and they were. So about 2.6 amps is the maximum for USB quick charge. And now going over to normal USB. We're actually getting a lower voltage. I wonder if our amps can go higher. 2.7, 2.75. Nope, 2.75 is about the maximum for normal USB. And now trying USB-C. I don't get anything out of it because the USB-C power delivery port requires some actual communication before it starts sending power. And here it is charging my phone. This is the only USB-C intelligent device that I have that I can test it with. I know you can plug this into some newer laptops and charge them directly up to 100 watts of power output. And let's see what the AC power output does. This is a heat gun. On low, can maintain full output voltage, 528 watts. On high, you hear that noise? That's the X boost kicking in. 599 watts. Volts is 82.6 volts. On the manual it says surge to 1200 watts, but that's a fallacy. It actually only ever goes to 600 watts and it lowers the voltage, increasing the amperage. So the amperage is what it would be for a 1200 watt load, but the volts is less, so you get less power output. This X-Boost technology acts more like a soft starter. It cannot run sensitive electronics that require a constant voltage even at high currents. But it will run dumb appliances at reduced capacity just fine. And because it's lighter than the lightest generator, you can carry it anywhere. I know I said no extension cords, but really that's the only way you can use this. Say you're an average homeowner and you have a corded hedge trimmer, but you have hedges down at the end of your driveway. How do you get to them? Well, you could run hundreds of feet of extension cord or just use this. Of course, I'm not done yet, but it works. This is a true test of any inverter anywhere trying to run an air compressor. 80 psi. 73 volts. We're up to 100 psi. I wonder if it'll shut off and we'll do the whole thing or not. 72 volts. I can't believe it's doing it. 110 psi. Okay. It went up to full pressure. That's 150 psi. It's freaking amazing. I don't know. Nope, the inverter's still running on this. It's still 120 volts. So this never actually shut off, and it filled up this pancake air compressor completely. This is a 2.6 SCFM at 90 psi compressor. It's 10.5 amps. Now let's dump some air out and see if it will actually restart the compressor. It did! Wow, that's amazing! Now, I'm not going to keep running this. It's just amazing that it can do that. It's just amazing that it was able to do that. Now, I should preface that you should never actually want to continuously do this. You know, don't take this to a job site and expect it to run off of this continuously. First, it takes a lot longer. Second, at reduced voltages, your motor's spinning a lot slower, and you're getting a lot less airflow cooling the motor in the compressor or whatever device. If you have some sort of heater, like a heat gun, it may be putting out more power, but the fan is moving slower. So you could actually burn it up. That's one disadvantage of this. Also, if whatever you're using has a fan to cool it off and it's running slower, you risk burning it up. But it's still amazing that it was able to do that. A further demonstration of the capabilities of this little device. It can run a giant saw. Not very fast, not with much power, but it can run it without stalling out, which is super impressive. Here it is starting with the X boost on. You can see the voltage going way down, and then it picks up as the saw draws less and less current as it picks up speed. Eventually it reaches full voltage. Now with X boost off, it just cuts out because the amp draw is too high, and it can't sustain it. The rest of this video is with X boost on. Never really just turned it off or anything else. Literally, you can drill this is an 1.25 bit, drilling through a 6x6. That's pretty impressive. Not everybody has cordless everything. Even I, with my plethora of tools, does not have a cordless sawzall. I don't have a cordless router. Yet if you were building a gazebo down by the river, well, now you can round over your 6x6s. Let's try a piece of 2x4. Not a problem. Let's try a piece of 2x6. I didn't like that. If you press too hard, it'll trip out. Let's reset it. There we go. Let's try pressing not so hard this time. Yes, it can do it. The problem is that this is a 60-tooth blade, and they take a lot more power. If you're trying to do fast construction, then you'll probably want to use a lower tooth blade, which will draw less current and cut a lot better and faster. I remember doing this at my parents' house. In the deepest parts of summer, when there was no water, we would toss a trash pump into the water, of course the gas-powered one, and try to prime it to fill up barrels to bring the water up to the garden. But with this, it's no problem at all. Here it's actually charged with solar, and it would last for 33 hours pumping that, assuming that, you know, the sun was up for 33 hours. And there's the solar input without the load on it. It's actually a 100-watt panel pulling in 53 watts here in April. Filling that barrel with the help of solar power only took 2% of the battery. One thing I don't like about this is the battery's full. There's no power going in, no power going out, and the fan's running. You hear that? So that's not good if I were to use it as a uninterruptible power supply. for example, running a 3D printer to protect it from power outages. So I unplugged it here. You heard it shut off. You turn on the AC output. So as soon as the AC output's on, it's also blowing the fan. So that's one detractor. You can't just leave it on without a load and it'd be quiet. Now, because this is such a standard power cord, I'll take the power cord that came with the unit and I can plug it in my 3D printer. Alright, volts are 120, as you would expect. Let's see the watts going out right now. 3.6 watts, that's just to run the cooling fan and turn the computer on here. So let's prepare this. Actually, no, we'll just go to print. I got an order for a microphone dead cat holder, so let's do that. Let's see what the power goes up to. Right now it's heating up the bed, so it's going to start drawing a lot more power. 265, 262 watts. So it's saying it'll run that for 3 hours, which is fine because the job takes about 2.5 hours. And you can see the watt output there, 258 watts. Very closely resembles this power output there. Oh, hopefully that didn't just throw it off. Got to be careful with these. Sometimes if you jostle it, it'll change the bed leveling settings. It's fluctuating between 50 watts and about 300 watts as the heated bed on that cycles on and off. This finished printing last night, and let's see how many percent of the battery it used. 50%. That's not too bad. It's difficult to show on the camera, this screen, because it's so reflective to the camera, but in real life it's clear and visible from many directions and even with light directly behind. So this being so glossy clear is not an issue in real life, just for cameras. And will it make coffee? You can see here I'm starting with water that's out of my tap, 56 degrees Fahrenheit. Turn on the inverter. Start making coffee. And you can see the voltage is putting out there. 98 volts. Watts, 600. And it's percolating. And it's saying it'll make 1 hour's worth of coffee. 98 volts, 600 watts. What is the power rating on this? 900 watts. And it's done. That used 11% of the battery, so in theory you can make 9 whole pots of coffee with this. And of course, being a solar generator, you can actually charge it with solar. Unfortunately, right now I'm only getting a few watts because the sun is behind clouds. These are panels that I bought. I only have one connected right now because you need a parallel cable to connect 2 panels together to run in parallel. You cannot run higher voltage, only up to 25 volts. So that's smaller size panels and only in parallel. Additionally, it's only 200 watts. So 1, 2, so that's 200 watts. But you can actually add more, like a third and a fourth. That way you'll get more power throughout the day, especially in adverse weather or in the morning or afternoon. And the angle's not perfect and it's still April. We're getting 54 watts out of a 100 watt panel. And it tells you how long it'll take to be full, 4 hours. Of course, it's at 68%. In the freezer here, it is quite cold. Under 0 degrees Fahrenheit. The cell chemistry in this lithium ion allows it to output power down to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. I just plugged in a simple light to demonstrate. The odd thing is the temperature here still shows 32, even though that is very cold. It's been soaking in here for about 6 hours. Additionally, it will not charge if it's below freezing, below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. But you see it's actually putting out power right there. That's because it's passing through power from the AC and it's bypassing the battery. So if I were to turn off the AC on my app here, that incoming power should go down to 0. And there it does. So it will not charge. You see it's at 57%. It will not charge if it's below freezing. That is to protect the batteries inside. For the sake of completeness, there's obviously a user guide, a power cord, the DC to DC barrel jack. This is a
automotive car charger, and that's a solar panel charger as well.
And to answer the big question, will this replace an extension cord? In most cases, yes, it will. Let's rehash a few of the pros and cons of this. It does everything you expect it to and more. Obviously, fast charge. This thing charges really fast on an AC cord. I really like this color. It's not trying to be something it's not. It's not trying to be orange, green. It's a really sleek black color, and I really like the design of the unit. If I show up somewhere and I'm trying to be professional, like doing a craft fair or something, I wouldn't be ashamed to have something like this kicking around underneath the table. The final big advantage is it has pass-through power. So not only can you use it while it's charging, it's not actually using the inverter. You have AC power coming in here and it's going directly out here. So you're not wasting any energy inside the device to try to convert the AC power to DC and then DC back to AC. It just passes right through. It's very intelligent in that way. An additional note about the AC pass-through though, it's still only limited to 600 watts. Just so you know. I wish this was more than just a display panel. I wish it was like a control panel with some sort of controls. You could change all of the settings that this has available on this without needing a phone. Another thing is the marketing says 1200 watts. That's somewhat deceptive. It will never actually put out 1200 watts. The app that it has, I wish it was Bluetooth, not Wi-Fi. The fans run all the time. I'm sure that there's more to it because there's extra components in there that need cooling. Even if it had a thermocouple on a heat sink, maybe other components would get too hot. It really should run all the time. I just wish that maybe it were quieter. This only has a 60mm fan, so I wish it was a larger fan that didn't have to spin so fast and be so loud. 80mm, 100mm, 120mm, 92mm, that's the fan size too. Maybe one of those fans would have been a better fit for this to be quieter. It's really a minor gripe. This is still plugged into the solar panels right there. I wish that the solar panel cable was longer, but that's really not a big issue because you can get an XT60 extension cord or an MC4 extension cord for really cheap on Amazon. The final minor gripe, all of these gripes are minor. It has no critical flaws. The last minor gripe is the solar charging or automotive charging is limited to 200 watts, but really automotive charging should be 10 amps. So that'd be 120 watts. Most cigarette lighter ports are fused below what would put out 200 watts. They probably sized it like this because it's a portable device, and to have more than 200 watts of solar panels kicking around is out of scale with a device as portable and small as this. The solar panels would be way more of a pain in the butt to pack than this, and the scales just wouldn't match. So it's okay, 200 watts, that's fine. And overall, I do recommend this device. Pretty much everybody could use this. Even if you live in an apartment and there's a power outage, what are you gonna do? You can't run a generator, it's an apartment. You could at least run some lights. You can even make coffee. And if you need help convincing your wife you could use this, well, it's on. It'll run a hairdryer and a curling iron and a flattener and whatever else you might need. And please don't forget to use that link and the coupon code down in the description. I'll get a small commission and I'll appreciate it, and you'll be helping me out make more hydroelectric videos. And that's all I have to say about that. Like, comment, subscribe.
You see that? You see that? Just flew into my mouth. Ugh.